Hello there. If you got that reference, make sure to message me right now. Like, just pause the video and WhatsApp me real quick, and I'll give you an extra point on your evaluation. Yeah, that's right. You thought you were evaluating me, but I'm actually evaluating you. So sit down, grab some popcorn, turn off your phone, turn off Netflix, whatever else you were doing, and watch my TED Talk. So, anyways, I'm Sebastian, for those of you who didn't know, which is basically just a cop. Like, you guys all know me. I'm the guy on Zoom with the beach background. Haha. That's not actually a beach, by the way. I'm really sitting in my house. Like, this isn't actually a library. It would be pretty cool, but it's not. So you might come to be shocked that I'm here to expand your mind. Yeah, I know, pretty crazy. So I'm gonna expand your mind through discussion of pre-college education. I know that sounds really crazy. Could you imagine if you were in school and your teachers were like, "Hey, I'm gonna expand your mind today"? Like, I honestly think that I would have appreciated that so much. Maybe learned a bit more in school than I did. With that being said, before I begin, I would like to thank Sir Ken Robinson for inspiring me to talk about this. You probably have Sir Ken Robinson. We all had to watch his TED Talk. It was amazing, talking about creativity. Truly inspired me, and I'm here to elaborate a bit on that. So with that said, you can probably guess what I'm gonna discuss: education system. I'm gonna discuss how the pre-college education system around the world pretty much focuses on the same thing: math and linguistics, while also sharing my personal experiences that led me to oppose the system. Now, in order to talk about this, I'm going to talk about how I had this realization about opposing the system and going to the pandemic. Now, we go back to the pandemic. Most of us were forced to isolate ourselves in June, coming home from uni. For a while, I kind of just studied. I mean, me personally, with class at 4 a.m., 3 a.m., 6 a.m., I just didn't really have time to do much else. And then in May, I had finals. In June was finance lab, where I actually did it with a bunch of Spanish guys. So I had meetings at 4 a.m. because I was going to accommodate their time since I was the minority living in the US. So anyways, I was pretty busy throughout these months, but then July came, and all of a sudden I had nothing to do throughout the day, and this was just shocking. Like, what was I supposed to do? So for a while, I just stayed at home until I realized I actually had a basketball court 5 minutes away from my house. Now, why is this significant? Well, as a child, like when I was about, well, basically up everything up until high school, I was incredibly passionate about basketball. Like, I wanted to play in the NBA. However, as I got older, my academics and social life got in the way of the sport. You want to go to college, you want to get into good uni, you also want to hang out with friends. Everything just kind of gets disorganized. On top of that, I never really had time to look at it during school. Like, we never really looked at basketball at school. We had an hour of physical workouts, and then after that, after school, I was studying all day, and playing professionally was really never an option for me. So I never really dedicated a lot of time after school for it either. So I simply discarded. Here's a key example of how the capitalist system pushed me away from my passion. Today's world, it seems as if we are only taught to pursue the job that will get us higher salary in school. In school, this is what they teach us. You want to get the best job, rather than actually try to enjoy our passions and live a more holistic life. During the pandemic, I fell back in love with my passion. I started playing basketball 3 to 5 times a week. I actually got really good now. It's kind of funny. I joke with my friends from high school, like, I'm good now, huh? And I've been doing this for the last 3 months, and I couldn't be happier. In a sense, I'm almost thankful for what the pandemic has done for me. And I'm going to refer to one of our classmates, Sophie Kaberi, in her TED talk. She talked about how in today's world, we're only focusing on the social and obviously the academic aspect in life. The social media detox that she took ultimately made her focus on herself more and improved her happiness. I believe that that detox was only necessary because of flaws in our education system. Now, we remember the pandemic, the quarantine. What are we gonna do? Like, honestly, what were we supposed to do? We were going from going to Irish every Thursday, hanging out with our friends, just sitting in our homes. Like, it's ridiculous. How are we supposed to adjust our lives like that? Now, imagine if you would have been able to develop your passions since you were a child. If you were like, some of you went into, I know some of you went to drawing, some of you did physical exercise, some of you just did all types of things, yoga. And I think that if we would have developed this in high school or in middle school, elementary school, if we would have been so much more prepared emotionally for the pandemic. And and now I'm gonna move into my next topic, which is education and the decline of the arts. So let's talk about the history of education. So before the Industrial Revolution, most of middle class children wouldn't go to school. They would simply work on the family farm or whatever their parents would work to provide for the household. For the middle class, life has always been about trying to survive the economic system. It just always has. They've always been trying to, they've never tried to, like, maybe succeed, just stay alive. And in order to stay alive in capitalism, you have to kind of strive for greatness, but just get the job with the most money. Forget about happiness. Like, what is that? They were just trying to succeed. According to an article by Peter Gray, a psychology professor at Boston College, when schools were developed, they were mainly meant to teach children how to work in factories and other trades, never to pursue their passions. According to Peter Gray, obviously the system has been regulated to better fit students. We're not hitting kids anymore. We're not really doing any of this extreme stuff that back then was pretty common. But still, we're learning. It's the same goal, to make a living. It's to survive. And while there are schools that have virtually any talent today, they are vastly expensive. Still, grand majority of schools focus on the same topics: mathematics, sciences, and literature. These are all for students to become bankers, doctors, or lawyers, among other professions, of course. But the goal is still the same. They want us to get jobs. You know, there's a quote from a movie called Sing Street where they talk about how how a profession is different than a vocation. Vocation is something more, or is something like a life. It's a lifestyle, something that goes along with your life. A profession is just something you do every day. And now I'm going to discuss a famous gardener and his theory of multiple intelligences. There are 8 different types of intelligence that I wanted to show, but sadly I couldn't, which would be the naturalistic, spatial, linguistics, interpersonal, polykinesthetic, musical, logical, mathematical, and interpersonal. Now, we look at how the mathematical and the linguistic are obviously the most important in schools. They're the ones that are about reading, math, all this stuff that's so crucial to work in these big jobs. And then from there, you kind of have a decline. Interpersonal is used somewhat with like group projects and other things. But for example, musical isn't something that you have to get specifically into it if you actually want to improve that as you go into high school, as you go into your life. They don't really teach you this stuff. I'm obviously speaking from my experience because that's a system where I grew up, and I can't speak about others. But for most of them, it seems to be this. And obviously you can't work on interpersonal in school, but I mean, same time they could balance it out. The body kinesthetic and the musical are so crucial in today's society. They're for musicians, for the artists, and I just think it's crucial. Really, the ones emphasized in most schools would be the ones best for careers, rather than the ones that would best improve your life now. Now I understand jobs are important, but in today's day and age, the jobs the system trains us for are being automated every day. Technology is constantly improving. It's always getting better. It's always getting better, and slowly these jobs are becoming automated. Factory jobs are becoming automated. We've seen the videos from these super high tech factories. Some corporate jobs are even getting automated today, and now and if we refer to Irene Contreras' talk, also a great talk from one of our classmates, so many pointless things are being taught in high school. Like that's she said that during her TED talk, and that was kind of her point. And I think that's so true, and how other intelligences could be taught instead and developed. Now, I believe that having all of these intelligence developed at a young age is important, so that each of us has the capacity to pursue our passions. Now, I understand how the economy works. Jobs that have the highest demand are the ones that have the highest pay. But why? Why should we grow up and why should we be taught that the best way to be happy is to make the most money? Like, I feel like that doesn't make any sense. We and sure, it's worked and it's fine, but I mean, we've used the same economic system from Adam Smith's Wealth of Nations in 1776, and this doesn't help when the alternative is Marxism from the 19th century. Like, these are also ancient, and I'm not saying that either of these is the answer, or that the answer even exists yet, or if it ever will, but yet. But we are the future, and we have a responsibility to humanity to embrace these passions more than ever before, for our sake and for our predecessors. Now, I feel like we don't appreciate artists in our time. Like, if we look at Van Gogh, for example, he was regarded as a crazy person for majority of his life until he died, and then all of a sudden he became this world-renowned artist. Same thing with a lot of musicians. I mean, you look at Ex Extensacion, for example. He was a rapper. I'm not per se a fan, but he was a really good rapper. And he had a lot of fans, and all of a sudden he died, and he got huge. We seem to not appreciate. Same with athletes. I know a lot of people who hated Kobe, including myself, who once he died decided to appreciate him more. Okay, we need to appreciate these artists in their time and enjoy them, because it's important to encourage the arts around the world. And as I feel like we have this responsibility to make the passions more important, because the world is leading towards its passions. I believe Sir Ken Robinson said it best when he said, "Creativity today is as important or more so than literacy." Thank you so much, guys. Have a good day.